Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Sunday message for April 26th of 2026. I can't believe that this is the last Sunday in April. So here we are moving through spring, and there's something unmistakable about spring. You can feel it before you fully see it. The air begins to soften. The light grows longer. The ground begins to stir with life again. Tiny green shoots push up through the soil that seemed lifeless just weeks before. Trees that were bare and brittle are swelling with buds and new leaves. And it's as if it's remembering something very ancient and unstoppable. The thing is that spring doesn't ask permission to arrive. It just comes, but it comes as a quiet but powerful declaration. Life is still unfolding. And if we're honest, we ourselves long for that same assurance within our own bodies, our own beings, our own lives. We have a longing to feel renewed, to feel movement where there's been stagnation, to sense growth where we were once concerned that nothing more could change. We want a spring in our step, which is why I'm calling this talk a spring in your step. But we want it not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, and deeply within our sense of purpose. But here's the question that calls to each and every one of us today. Where are you showing the expanding of spirit in your own life? And equally important, where has your blossoming begun to show the fruit of your dedication? And these are not casual questions. They're invitations to examine the living evidence of transformation within us. Now, at the beginning of the month, we celebrated Easter. We celebrated a resurrection over our own thoughts, our feelings into something greater. So where are you noticing this in your life? But before there can be any blossoming, there's a lot of unseen work that takes place. Roots stretch deeper into the soil. Seeds split open in darkness. Energy gathers in places that no one sees. No one can applaud us. And we often underestimate the stage because it doesn't look impressive. It doesn't produce immediate results. It requires patience, trust, and a willingness to continue even when nothing appears to be happening. Yet this is when spirit first expands. The expanding of spirit is not loud. It's not dramatic. And more than often, it's very subtle and very persistent. It shows up when you choose peace over reaction, when you pause instead of rushing into old patterns, when you forgive even though a part of you still aches, when you begin to believe just a little more that your life holds meaning and direction. And these moments may seem small, but they are not insignificant. They are the early signs that something within you is shifting. So truly ask yourself, very honestly, where have I softened when I used to be rigid? Where have I become more patient, more aware, more compassionate? Where have I chosen growth instead of comfort? That is the expanding of spirit. And it's not measured by perfection. It's revealed through progression. Expansion is not always easy to recognize because we tend to look for grand transformations. We expect lightning bolts of clarity or sudden sweeping change in our life. Spirit often expands in increments. Perhaps you used to carry resentment for days, and now it only lingers for hours. Perhaps you once doubted yourself constantly, and now you occasionally trust your own voice. Perhaps you once avoided difficult conversations, and now you learn to lean into them with courage. That is expansion. Expansion means your inner world is becoming larger than your fears. It means your awareness is growing beyond your limitation. It means that you are no longer confined to who you once were. And here is the truth that we must embrace. Growth rarely announces itself. It reveals itself over time. Just as a tree does not notice its own branches stretching outward, we may not always be able to see how far we've come. But if you pause and reflect, truly reflect, you will find evidence of your own growth. Moments where you responded differently, moments where you stood stronger, moments where you chose to love, even when it was difficult. And those are not coincidences, they are confirmations. Spring does not arrive without resistance. There's going to still be cold mornings, storms. There's going to still be days when the sky is gray and the earth itself feels very reluctant to awaken. And yet the process continues. In the same way, your spiritual expansion will encounter resistance. There will be days when you feel stuck again, days when old habits resurface, days when doubt whispers louder than hope. This does not mean you are failing. It means you're growing, because growth disrupts what is familiar. It stretches you beyond what is comfortable. It asks you to release what no longer serves you, even when it is all you've ever known. So do not mistake difficulty for defeat. Instead, see it as evidence that something within you is being reshaped. Expansion is the beginning. Blossoming is the visible expression. Blossoming is when the inner work becomes outwardly evident. It's when what's been cultivated in private begins to manifest in your life, your relationships, your actions. So, where has your blossoming begun to show fruit of your dedication? Because fruit does not appear overnight. It's the result of constant care, nourishment, attention. So if you've been nurturing patience, you will begin to see how you respond to others. If you've been cultivating self-worth, you will begin to see it in the boundaries you set. If you've been practicing gratitude, you will begin to see it in your perceptiveness of life. Blossoming is not just about personal growth, it's about impact. It's about how your growth touches the world around you. The fruit is tangible, it's observable. It's something others can often see before you fully recognize it yourself. Have you noticed that people respond differently to you lately? Have you found that you are handling situations with more clarity and less chaos? Have you experienced moments of joy that feel deeper and more grounded? That is the fruit that comes from what you've been doing. And fruit may look like healthier relationships, greater emotional stability, an increased confidence, a stronger sense of purpose, a deeper connection to something greater than yourself. These are not random occurrences. They are the result of your dedication. So every time you choose growth over comfort, you planted a seed. Every time you persisted through difficulty, you watered that seed. Every time you believed in the possibility of change, you gave that seed light. And now the fruit is beginning to show. One of the challenges we face is that we often minimize our own progress. We compare ourselves so often to others. We focus on what's still lacking, and we overlook how far we've come. But just imagine if a gardener did that. Imagine him or her planting seeds, tending to them daily, and then absolutely ignoring the first signs of growth because the garden itself is not fully in bloom. And you and I both know that would be absolutely absurd. And yet we do this to ourselves all the time. So I'm asking you today to just take a moment to honor your growth, not in arrogance, but in acknowledgement. Recognize the effort you've made. Recognize the changes that you've embraced. Recognize the ways in which you are not the same person you used to be. That recognition is not self-indulgence, it's awareness. And awareness fuels continued growth. So what does it mean to have a spring in your step? It does not mean that life is perfect. It does not mean challenges disappear. It means that you carry within you a sense of renewal, possibility, and forward movement. It means that you trust that growth is still happening, even when it's not immediately visible. It means you walk with a lightness that comes from knowing you're not stuck. A spring in your step is the outward expression of inward transformation. It's the confidence that comes from experience, a peace that comes from enlightenment, the joy that comes from living in harmony with your own becoming. So where are you showing the expanding of spirit in your own life? Look in at your thoughts, your choices, your responses. Where has your blossoming begun to show the fruit of your dedication? Look for it in your relationships, your impact, your sense of self. These two questions are not meant to be answered once and forgotten. They're meant to be lived. And as you continue to live these questions, something remarkable is going to happen. You will begin to see your life not as static, but as dynamic, not as fixed, but as evolving, not as limited, but as unfolding, growing. Spring is not just a season on the calendar. It's a metaphor, a reminder, an invitation. It invites you to begin again, to grow again, to believe again. No matter where you've been, no matter what you face, no matter how long the winter has felt, spring is still possible. Within you, there are seeds that have not yet blossomed. Within you, there is a potential that has not yet even been realized. And within you, there is a life that is still unfolding. And the spirit within you is always expanding, always moving, always inviting you forward. So carry these questions with you. Where is spirit expanding in me right now? Where is my life showing signs of new growth? Where is the fruit of my dedication becoming visible? And most importantly, where am I willing to continue the process? Because growth is not a destination. It is a journey. And it's a journey that unfolds step by step, season by season, moment by moment, until one day you realize that you are no longer waiting for spring. You are living it. And there, in that quiet confidence of your own becoming, you will find it. A lightness in your spirit, a steadiness in your soul, and yes, a spring in your step. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for listening to this message. God bless each and every one of you. Happy spring, happy life. God bless.